Welcome back to another episode of the Elevate Collection podcast. We're so excited to bring you a very special episode with our dear friend, Michel Smith Boyd. Welcome to the podcast, Michel.
I'm happy to be here.
We are so happy to have you. We have had an incredible few encounters that have really just elevated our lives. Y'all, we were with Michel the other day, and we were recapping our experiences, and the only way that I could articulate his presence, yes, a presence that he has is like, it's angelic. He is like a presence that like floats through a room. So I'm so hopeful that y'all get to experience and feel him through this episode, because he is a moment for us.
It's a lot to live up to.
No, what do you mean? That's your existence.
But I think that is a product of years of design, because I always tell my team that we're supposed to be almost invisible, except that we left the space better than we found it.
Ooh.
You know what I mean? Like, we just come in, do our job, and disappear, and you're like, oh my God, it's like magic. I think that's where that's coming from.
What's crazy is you explaining it like that, is I feel like I can, like, even at Beyonce, like that, exactly what it felt like. He was like,
are we going to talk about the fact that we were at the concert together?
I know.
That we're bonded for life via Beyonce?
It was a life experience. You can't just ignore that. You know how you have like trauma bonds? What do you call like a Beyonce bond?
Oh, wow.
Is it just a Beyonce bond?
A bond for life.
A bond? I'm here for it.
Yeah.
Well, before Beyonce, there was Thibodaux, Louisiana.
Pre-B, there was Thibodaux.
Tell us where you started. Tell us where you started. How did we end up being able to sit in your presence?
I was one of those kids that knew that whatever I was looking for wasn't at home. We're all from small towns, you get it. Like, or that I love my family, I love where I come from, and I think I appreciate it more now than ever. Probably more than I did when I was 18.
Right.
But it made for a great foundation, but I knew that in order to fully discover who I was, I needed a little bit of space. And I needed to be in a place where there were other weirdos like me, AKA creatives, you know what I mean? What we did at home was practical. You know, mom and dad had to be practical. 3 kids, this is the salary, this is the life. We're in the deep South. And I showed up like a peacock. I mean, you know, there's no other way to say it.
Where are you in the 3, though? I have to know that.
I'm the oldest.
Okay,
It feels
going.
like that. It feels right, doesn't it? I'm the oldest, so I'm the only child between mom and dad. And so I'm the oldest on both sides. My father has 3 other sons, and my mom has 2 other kids. And so I feel like I've been in charge my whole life, but also at the same time, hopefully setting an example of self-discovery and building something, and the joy of creating something too. Yeah.
That's amazing. So from Thibodaux, where did you land? Did we go straight to Atlanta? Did we have a journey before we got to Atlanta?
There was a trip to college.
Okay.
It was a short stint. Just because that major wasn't right. I had no idea who I was, so I didn't know what I wanted to do. And I think in order to figure it out for me, I needed more exposure. I needed to see examples. I'm kind of that guy. I got to put my hand in the fire sometimes to know that it's hot. So seeing examples of different careers and so forth when I was in Lafayette in school, about 2.5 hours away from Thibodaux, still wasn't enough. But there were all these talks about and all these stories about how amazing Atlanta was for young black creatives, for the music industry, etc. And the history that goes along with this city can't be denied. And so I decided to take a chance. And I landed in Atlanta during the Olympics. So my first thought was, wow, because I'd never even visited. I moved here sight unseen. I told my cousin I was coming for a visit. I showed up with my U-Haul truck and my car attached to the back. The bonus was that she didn't have any furniture, so it was perfect.
Win-win. Okay.
I didn't need a storage unit, and it was synergy. That was a very obnoxious entry. That is, again, is like early 20s, like 21 or something like that. Maybe not even, maybe 20. And I lived there for about 2 years, and then I moved to New York. I was visiting New York every week for that second year. And the company that I worked for said, you're always there. You're doing really great here. I'll promote you. And so I moved to New York. I moved to Westchester County. Not quite Manhattan, where I spent all my time, but I was there every night. So I was just a driving fool, basically. But it was a really good time. And I think that's where the real self-discovery began. I think Atlanta offered me this freedom that I didn't have in Louisiana. It felt like even though I wasn't in my hometown, you know how you feel your parents' watchful eye on you? Like, and then there were so many relatives around the corner in Brobridge, which is still a French-speaking town, this broken Cajun patois. And that's where my grandfather's from. So I felt too close to home still. Atlanta finally felt like that freedom I was looking for. And I learned a lot about me and that I wasn't so weird. You know, I found a whole bunch of weirdos in this town. A whole bunch of young Black creatives and just space to be that, right? And New York was like next level. Of all the places I've been in the world, New York is still my favorite. I feel like I owe each of those cities so much about regarding my personal development.
And for our followers who haven't had the opportunity to get to know you yet, what was that original major and what are you up to now?
My original major was nursing. I was a nursing major. I was going to be a registered nurse.
And what are you up to now?
What am I up to now? It ain't nursing.
It's the same way this ain't Texas, so.
You know what? It's evolved so much because when I discovered design, it made sense. I just talked about putting my hand in the fire. It made sense because I wanted to be an architect when I was a kid. But it was just one of those words I threw out because you had three choices. You could be a lawyer, a doctor, or an architect, you know, or the things I saw, like a preacher? You know, that probably wasn't going to work. But I wanted to be an architect because I loved all things creative and I loved my industrial arts class. I loved my art classes. I loved my painting classes. All the things we did in the summer that my mom put us in to keep us busy and me, you know, to keep me occupied because she's like, I don't know what to do with this kid, basically. When I discovered design, it kind of merged those worlds. The architecture with also the fashion world that I'd landed in. You know, when I was in New York, I was like, let's try it all. A little bit of modeling, some acting classes. I was a retail bum. I did all of that in those first 2 years there, in addition to working. And when I discovered interior design, it was like, oh my God, it made everything that I'd done thus far make sense.
That is so beautiful. And the reason I say it's beautiful is because I think what you probably subconsciously did to yourself is what we often do is we have to categorize it into something that makes sense, right? So the box of architect made sense to you.
It even though I didn't know what it was. I mean, what do you really know as a kid? I'd never met one, and I knew Mike Brady was an architect on the Brady Bunch, you know. But
I mean, there's that.
I knew that about Mike Brady. I was obsessed with designing women set in Atlanta, an office full of interior designers. But I was also in love with George and Wheezy's apartment on the Jeffersons in New York City. And it's funny, I swear to you guys, one morning I woke up in bed and it just hit me like, you are in New York City in a high rise. Just like you saw on television as a kid. Like I'd manifested it in that way. They were on the Upper East Side, I was on the Upper West Side. And I thought, holy shit.
I'm moving
that really happened. I moved on up, right? It's corny, but it's so real the way that it happened. It breathed, it happened. And that should have been my clue there, where I knew that I was always covered and that I had this power to manifest things. But again, hand in the fire, just a little bit obtuse sometimes. And I don't know if it's the guy thing or just a Michelle thing, but I should have known then, but looking back over my life, I have been covered and my steps ordained throughout my life that way.
How hard is it being God's favorite?
I think that I go out of my way to deny it. How about that? To make it really difficult. Don't you?
No,
Don't
we
you feel
get
that?
it.
Like I go out of my way to F it up.
Like, girl, get it together.
Yeah. And then it's like, you know the scripture about obedience being better than sacrifice? I am so difficult.
I can tell you now, I know I'm disobedient.
I am so difficult. But the thing about favor is that I don't ever want to lose it. You know, I don't want to lose it.
Because the thing is, you don't have to earn it.
that's it.
You don't have to earn it, and that's what's so crazy.
But you can screw it up.
Oh, yeah. Oh.
But thank God he's not like us, and
He's
more
not like
forgiving
us.
and less judging. So yeah, I think I'll be okay.
I just love that Kendrick and the God reference is all in the same.
Oh,
Wait, what?
it's talking about God and the Kendrick
He's
Lamar
not like
references
us.
for us.
God's not like us.
I'm like, he's not. He's
Hey, that's
sure
real.
he's
That's
not.
who I am. I love God and I cuss a whole lot.
See, I'm not a little, I'm a lot.
Yeah.
Same.
People say a little, I cuss a whole lot.
We knew
lot.
you were our people. All right, you had a very interesting start into the design world. What is your claim to fame?
Start? Oh gosh, my start is we hired a designer. That's how I learned about it. I literally hired a designer to work on that place I just referenced, and he took me out shopping and so forth and so on, and I was like, what is this? Like, honestly.
You get paid for this?
Right, you get paid for this. And this felt like something that I would do for free. At the time, Oprah was all about living your best life and so forth and so on. And she's replaying in my head over and over again, figure out that thing that you love, that you would do for the rest of your life. You do it for free if no one paid you. What was that thing? And this felt like it for me. But again, super naive, right? I'm just out with this guy doing the most fun part of our job is spending someone else's money, right? Or developing someone's point of view or interpreting that for them. That's a really easy part of design. And I think that's, it was a little deceiving, but it got me enrolled in school.
Then can you elaborate now, if that's the easy part, what is the most difficult part that you have encountered, and how have you overcome that?
I think...
if you have, unless you're still struggling.
Of course. Business is tough, and creative
Right.
business is tough. And I think the biggest part of our job that's difficult on the business side is pivoting, right? And client development. I mean, so much of what you do has very little to do with your talent, and much more to do with how you operate your business and run your business and the relationships you develop with people. I mean, that's so much communication, it's so much transparency, and also a lot of vulnerability. In order for you to communicate with me exactly what you need and to give me all the tools I need to be effective and effectively design your house, you have to be vulnerable. But I have to be also, so that we can meet there and build that trust, and I get to be basically your United Nations for rooms in your home, to figure out exactly what mood we need to set for you to be as amazing as possible.
So from a creative and a business leader, right? So you offer this experience. This is an experience, and quite frankly, it's a luxury. It's a luxury that people feel like they can choose to have or not have. So providing the experience that you provide, how are you able to articulate the value to someone who may not comprehend the value, whether they have the resources or not to do it, right? How do you articulate that value? Because I understand, let's say you're coming and you've got a wife who's like, yep, we need to do this. And then you've got a husband coming in or a partner coming in, whomever, that is like, no, like, why do we need to do that? Like, we can go to a Crate and Barrel and they'll just pick out some stuff for us. We're good to go. How are you articulating that value, or how do you articulate what you do that would provide a more holistic experience or outcome?
That is case-by-case basis. I'll be honest with you. I think the best designers are the best listeners. And so, and that is often the case where one spouse is like gung-ho and the other is a little bit more hesitant. And that's not off-putting at all. As long as there's respect and an openness, or at least enough time for me to, give my spiel, my elevator speech, then I can win that client over. Because the truth is, no one is really left out of the conversation. And I think a lot of experiences that I've had start out with, wow, you might devalue what a designer does. I don't think clients always know that they deserve what we do. Or kind of see it as somebody else's thing. Oh, that's for rich people or people in a particular bracket or of a different class or something like that. But everyone deserves great design, and it really is a gateway to a more healthy life. Design is directly connected to wellness. And actually explaining things like that, and how your home is supposed to edify you and greet you at the end of the day and get you prepared for the next one. And going through the steps and spaces and examples of how that works from client to client for people who don't quite understand how design works is always an effective tool to get them at least open to it. And the idea of, especially when it's the male client that is not on board, I've got a disgruntled husband, presentation is huge. The presentation is huge because that's when I get to connect. You know, if I've learned some things about him via how he's approaching our conversation, or even from his partner, I know how to present to him and what's going to appeal to him. Honestly, coming into your home, I've got an advantage because I'm scanning everything. It's like CSI here, crime scene investigation. And I'm deciding, you know, what happens here daily, how I can make it better. And immediately I'm figuring out how to make myself valuable in what my team and I do. I always tell them, you know, our job is to make us indispensable. It's a luxury to have it, right? And it's not just a luxury to have this beautiful white boucle chair as much as it is to experience the chair. And so offering someone that experience in the presentation is a huge way to close that gap between myself and someone who is not sure about what I'm presenting, what I'm bringing.
That is so impressive to me. And it's impressive because I feel like we have so many conversations about this, and it's something that we preach in our business to anyone that we communicate with, as far as on a mentorship level typically. But something that we often say is one of the keys to business for us is to always be interested and not interesting. Be inquisitive. You want to learn, you want to soak up as much as you can, because then you get to really connect with someone and understand how to communicate with them. You get to understand what's important to them by giving them the opportunity to speak and truly being interested, not performatively so. We were just like, so what do you do?
Not performatively so. And I love that when we met, you want that backstory. It kind of takes the wall down. You see what similarities are there, and also how to connect. I don't always have that luxury, you know, because there's this stigma that goes along with designers that, you know, we are nose in the air, judging and so forth and so on. And that's not exactly what's happening. It's really a learning opportunity. If I'm invited into your home, that counts. I'm counting myself as lucky, because no one has to do that. And the idea of me coming in, I just know how to make this better for you. And if given the opportunity, I will. There's so much improvisation and psychology and, like I said earlier, pivoting, that is just listening and responding in a way that's yes and, as opposed to close-ended sentences, because, you know, it's interesting because, you know, design is never done, right? So it's just building always, and it evolves with you as you do as a person. And while I want something always that's going to represent a little bit where you come from, some of your present, which you aspire to be, but also leave room for that growth.
I love this, and I just get so excited. So shut me up whenever you need to, because what you're saying, I don't know, maybe there's somebody who develops curriculum at a university level that's listening to this. With what you're saying, I feel like, one, you should be teaching a course, because it feels like there's a level of like anthropology that needs to also be integrated in like course curriculum, like even psychology, anthropology, you know, psychology, whatever, into that design curriculum, because I don't know that I've ever experienced someone discuss design with the level of intentionality that I've heard you speak about.
And I don't mean to make it so serious.
It's not. No, it's not. It's not that it's serious. It's intentional.
It's intentional.
You're trying to understand so that you can serve.
Yeah, exactly. It's service. Another thing I tell my team, we're the best dressed help. That's it.
The best dressed help.
I'm really still that.
Legitimately, we are here to help our clients. We're here to serve, and but the opportunity to serve is a blessing, because when you're creative, you know, you've got all these ideas bubbling, and I want to tell you in the most humble way how to spend your money. You know, that's not an easy thing to present to someone all the time. They've got to be open to it. And you work with people that you like. And you like people that respect you first.
Period.
So, you know, all that is an exercise and paramount in our business in how we meet people and actually begin building that relationship. That foundation begins on respect and being grateful for the opportunity to be welcomed in. You mentioned something else about curriculum. I think one of the reasons I'm so in tune with that part right now is because that's what I'm writing about. And
Writing?
I'm writing this design book, right? And I was writing theory first.
Okay.
And theory's so boring. It's so boring. And it's only interesting to other designers. But I thought it might be cool to write from a vulnerable standpoint. You know, you asked me where I come from when we first met. And so the book is telling you, it feels like an autobiographical journey of interior design. And in order to build an autobiographical interior, one that represents you and your whole story, I've got to be vulnerable too. So yeah, it's that's why it feels so serious, but I've been really thinking about it a lot lately.
Well, we got to experience the home of one of your clients. And the reason I feel like we can use the word experience, because I don't know if there's any other word that you can use outside of experience their home, because we felt like we got to know them more touring their home.
Oh, 100%.
And it's a home that you designed.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about, I don't know, like, what do we want to know about that house? It's just so amazing.
Oh, I mean, truly, how do you capture the essence of a person or a family that inhabits a home?
And then little people, right? And it's such a compromise, right? It's such a compromise with a husband and wife in this particular family and 3 kids. And it was exactly what you described, you know. Husband was like, a little skeptical, you know. He said, okay, I trust my wife, but I'm a little skeptical. And so I pop in all shiny with my team. Well, only one other person was with me that day. And we got our bags and our tape measures and we're going at it. And he's like, what the hell is happening? It's like an invasion of privacy. But, you know, we have the power to disarm, you know, with language and our presence and the way we communicate. And eventually, he has become the biggest design junkie ever.
He's addicted.
Ever. It's addictive. And you know, good energy is infectious, right? So whatever my mood is about what I'm doing and how I feel about what I'm bringing to you, that excitement is going to convey to you. You like, even if you don't get it, you're like, let me see what the hell this guy's so excited about. Let me see what's happening here. So yeah, now he's literally sending me pages from IG and websites from just online, just all these cool things that he's found. And the bridge, I think, started out with lighting. I understand how much they love their family, you know, and how important their family is. It's grown since we've been working together. They started out with a small daughter and a brand new baby, and now there are 3 of them. And, you know, I feel like if I had a family house, it would probably look like that. It would probably look like that. So the young couple from coming from Los Angeles, and they saw a lot of things, and they travel, they see a lot of things. So that when they're exposed, when someone's really exposed and stay in great hotels and so forth and so on, I want your living experience at home to be better than the hotels you're staying in. There's no way you should go and pay for a room that's more comfortable than where you live every day. That's insane to me.
That's exactly how they explained it to us when they gave us the tour.
They said
Crazy,
that?
yes.
And what's crazy is you mentioned that you have to become vulnerable and you have to integrate into their lives and you have to learn about them too. And I feel like when we were done with the tour, we knew just as much about you as the designer. As
Oh, wow.
Truly.
Wow.
Like, it was truly autobiographical on both parts.
Sweet. And for me, because I use that term for myself because I mentioned where I'm from. I didn't grow up with an interior designer. I didn't know what interior design was until I was 20-something. You know what I mean? I didn't know it was a thing. I thought architecture was just it, or a painter or an architect, you know, but eventually the more exposure that I received, the more I realized that where I came from didn't disqualify me from the life that I wanted and from being able to make the kind of contributions that I wanted. So I thought that it did. And, I traveled the world in my 20s and 30s, and still I have such a good time. And so much of what I'm in love with and so much of what's influenced me right now was right in my backyard. On my trips to New Orleans every weekend with my family, to City Park, to the museums, to the Audubon Zoo even, in the French Quarters. I had access to a lot of the things that hold so much weight now and are so precious. And I would have never thought that when I was a kid. So yeah, I'm from this melting pot of creativity. I mean, there's so much ceremony around how we entertain as a family, and music, in where I'm from, and just food, and not to mention that natural presentation, Southern pageantry. I was meant to be a designer. It's perfect.
The pageantry.
Yeah.
We're so excited.
I want to, before we move on from their home, you have introduced us to the great big world of lighting, and you have a very unique term that you use when referencing lighting that I'd like to discuss a little bit.
Oh, I call it the sparkle layer, right? We learned that in school. There is this general layer of lighting, but then there's a sparkle layer. And general layer usually refers to recessed lighting, things like that. Something that's not really pretty until you come here, anyway. But the sparkle layer is like jewelry in the room for me. And I truly build rooms like I do wardrobes. Fashion has always been a massive part of my life and inspiration for design, because textiles are my favorite things to tell stories. But lighting is jewelry. It's this and that and this. You know what I mean? Just that little exclamation point that moves a room from the display in the window to exactly what you wanted in your living room that you want to experience every day.
It's amazing. So you've done all of this. You have gotten to the point where you're writing this incredible piece that we're not theory now.
It's not theory
not
anymore,
theory.
but it feels so much better because it feels real.
Feels like you.
It feels, you're very kind, thank you. It feels real because I think I was writing like I thought a book was supposed to sound. Does that make sense to you?
100%.
Okay. So now what I'm doing, for example, in one of the entries into a chapter, each chapter begins with a personal story. And I am in my, we take this ride, my dad and I see my dad on the weekends, right? And so we're in the car and I'm listening to his music. And if he liked it, I liked it. And so I am comparing design and approaching design to R&B music because it has a rhythm, it has a soul, and it has a story.
Yeah.
And so each room should have a rhythm. If it doesn't, then it's probably ineffective. And we land on this sofa, and it's got audible springs. It's my grandmother's house. And I remember the vinyl on the sofa, and I could hear myself sit down. And the television had legs, and there's chickens in the backyard, and there are 2 bedrooms, but there were 7 kids. Where does everybody sleep? I'm literally space planning at 5 years old. Wow. And so I was always a designer. And in telling these stories in the book has given me so much insight into just mechanics of a family, but also just me personally. That kind of vulnerability and breakdown of how design works and a room should work is also a bridge, I'll say bridge, a conduit to explaining in someone else who is a novice of design to understand it much easier. Does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense. And now that you're writing this book, but you've also garnered this significant amount of influence everywhere from being featured on HGTV, being a host, being in Vogue, being in the Wall Street Journal. You've garnered all of this influence, right? Did you ever have a moment where you had, you know what, this is it, like I made it?
Yeah, that's hilarious, actually. Because, you know what, maybe. But I've always been really afraid to lean into it. Because I think the lesson that stuck with me most from my mother was about humility. And it's a double-edged sword. Now, as an adult, I understand that the downside of that. However, the upside is that I always, I don't know, guys, I didn't want to get too big for my britches ever.
Yeah.
If you get that term, like, I just didn't ever want to think that, okay, I'm the shit now, because the journey from developing product and having things like at Crate and Barrel and Z Gallery and all these places that, you know, like my family can visibly see and experience, like the boy that was eating cereal right next to you every morning is now here, and you can buy something with our family name on it. It's massive. But at the same time, I'm too young to quit. And there needs to be space to grow.
Right.
And the kind of, and if I didn't know that, meeting people on the aftermath of having these shows with the network and building this product has been incredibly humbling in a way that strangers are saying, I'm proud of you. And I'm like, hello, we just met. But they lead with that. And it makes me remember that there's so many nameless, faceless people whose shoulders I'm standing on, who didn't have the opportunity to be quite as visible as I do, but they made room for me. And it's not just me. It's a lot of favor. It's some good luck. I'm talented, but there's also a lot of people rooting for me. Yeah. There's a lot of people rooting for me and making room and giving me an opportunity. And so it sounds incredibly heavy, and some days it is, but I'll never take it for granted.
Heavy as the head.
Yeah, so like the idea of saying, oh, I made it now. I thought television was that thing. I thought television was that thing because I avoided it for a long time. They came 2 or 3 times, different networks, and I was like, absolutely not. Absolutely not. There's no way that I'm going to make an ass of myself on a national platform, because naturally that's what's going to happen, right? I'm not going to succeed. I'm going to be an asshole. And I'm going to look untalented, embarrass my family, my whole city, and everybody. Immediately, that's what I thought. But that was that saboteur that's so busy. He lives in here. Yeah, so eventually I caved in. The truth is that I wanted it more than I was willing to admit. And I was just afraid of screwing it. Fear has been my constant companion through all of this. When we even talk about, you know, the things that are listed as accomplishments, I was always a little fearful, you know, every step of the way. And I think it may have gotten in the way in some spaces, but I think things happen the way that they're supposed to. And I have a much better hold on that now when it comes to taking risk.
What legacy are you hoping to leave?
I think that legacy is not something I'm thinking about. I think that legacy will take care of itself if I'm present right now. If I remain present and take advantage of every opportunity and not allow fear to drive the car, you know, I think that legacy will take care of itself. I mean, how everybody thinks about me when I'm gone, I have nothing to do with it. I'm going to be up there hanging out, you know, probably with a drink. But
wine for sure.
at least a cab, right? Yeah, you know, obviously it's important, you know, what I leave behind for my family and the reputation that I create and so forth. That's important. But I feel like being present and making sure that I am, like I said, driving the car and establishing goals and moving forward and not allowing anything to create a ceiling in spaces where I want to excel. I think legacy takes care of itself. That's just one more heavy thing, I think, on my shoulders, on all of our shoulders, that we can take off for now and just focus on being amazing every day.
That's so powerful.
It is. And it's interesting because it's something that you aren't focused on, but it's something you're doing. And I think you also, outside of your own determination, your upbringing, your hard work, you mentioned it before about other folks that may not have had the visibility or that came before you. That is a part of their legacy. which is so, and they have no idea. And I think legacy isn't necessarily, I think our immediate thought around legacy is always like bloodline.
100%.
But I think it's about impact. And I think the impact that you make, the immediate impact you make in someone's home also turns around and impacts their legacy. Because now what have you done? You've created this safe space for them to exist, to dwell, to grow, to develop in for their kids.
Where they feel seen.
Yes.
Where you feel seen.
And heard.
Yeah, because outside of the doors, you don't have autonomy ends there. You have complete control of the space you create. And no one's edified in every space. And most of my clients are coming from spaces where they are, integrating into corporate spaces, etc. And the idea of having a home, like I said, that edifies you, but also where you feel seen, and the things that you love are reflected back at you, and you see there's evidence of your growth, of your evolution, of what you deem important. And I think it's important to see that reflected back to you when in most spaces in your life you don't.
Oh, that's so true. There's one question we ask every guest on the podcast, and that's what's one thing us, our community, the listeners, the people who are in our world, what's one thing we can do to elevate you and move your needle forward? What's your big ask?
Elevate me and move my needle forward. Me personally, like a selfish answer?
It can be selfish. It can be anything. Some people have asked, like, can you recommend a really good restaurant in Texas? I'm going to Dallas next week.
Oh, man.
So it can be anything, or it could be, I need connections here.
I got a couple answers. I don't think I'm finished with that last question yet, but we're going to go back to that. I think I got a couple answers to that. If elevating me, I would humbly ask that you stick with me. Because I'm going to move away from the network. While I thought that television was that bar for me, I'm going to do some things outside of television, where I own my own content and I get to create my own programming and so forth and so on. So I'd love it if the people who are currently following me and new followers would stick with me and follow me over to the YouTube, as opposed to just Instagram, to the YouTube. You got to say that.
Like the Facebook, the YouTube. Got it.
Because it's going to be exciting. One of the things about working with a big network is that you take on their persona and do things that are respectful of their demographic, of their point of view, etc. It's not always in line with mine. Mine is sexier, it's darker, it's more moody, and it's much more in touch and in tune with my audience. And so while I appreciate everybody riding with me on the block and on Luxe for Less and everywhere else I've been, I think the idea of having a more authentic, more transparent, and a little bit deeper look into what we do is going to be really exciting. Really exciting.
We for sure can't wait to follow this journey.
Yeah.
So that for sure.
We'll stick with you.
But that legacy thing, I think if I'm asking somebody to do something too, recognizing that the service is a part of legacy, because what you're doing for someone else to impact them, like you said earlier, is as big a part of legacy as what you physically create.
I agree.
Yeah.
I think it's the concept of, it's a term that's used, I feel like, more in like the church world, but I wish more people would adapt this, just regardless of your belief system, is in servant leadership. I think people think they have to be at the helm of something all the time to be able to make impact, to make change, to move even just like a thought process forward. Has to be at the top. You gotta dictate things down, and like, I think so much of leadership is done through serving other 100%. People, and I'm hopeful people see it.
I didn't get that for a long time. I didn't get that for a long time, and maybe it's coming from being the oldest. You know what I mean? And being in charge.
I'm sure that's it, because my older brother's the same way.
Yeah, and maybe it comes from that. But one of the first things you learn about design is that you can't do it alone. You can't do it alone. I can't physically come up with all the ideas, communicate everything effectively, gather all the materials, install the materials, build everything. I can't do that. You have to develop a team of people who are invested in your vision, and that's the first step. That's the first step of understanding how much humility is involved in creating something magical. And the more people you get invested in your vision, the more you believe in yourself, the more your clients believe in you. And I think the idea of sharing that vision and not that singular point of view makes for something a lot more special. It's community building.
Community building. Oh, we know a thing or two about building communities.
Yeah.
And we love that.
Yeah.
We would love to close with this. You mentioned talking about like R&B music and the relation to design. Can you tell us right now what song or songs that you currently have on repeat? Like,
Okay, right now I'm listening to If My Heart Could Talk.
ooh,
The artist's name is Winston Bix. R&B, sexy, lots of
Bix.
throwbacks. He happens to be my siblings, my brother.
Okay.
So my name is Michel Smith Boyd, right? And Smith is my mother's maiden name. And so it's kind of a nod to both parents. Since I'm a junior, I'm Michel Boyd Jr. And my younger brother's name for his project or his work name is his grandparents' last name. So that's how he got Winston Bix. His name is
Bix.
actually Terrence Michel Boyd.
Oh,
Yeah.
Bix. I'm pulling it up so I
Yeah.
can make sure I...
We're for sure going to add it to our Elevating the Frequency playlist
You should,
too.
you
So
should.
the whole Elevate community will get a little taste.
You should. R&B is just my thing, right? But legitimately, you could read the book that I'm writing and plug in whatever your genre is. I literally pulled a line from a Luther Vandross song where he says, "A chair is still a chair, even if there's no one sitting there." You know that song? I think it's "House is not a home." And it was originally Dionne Warwick, but I was like, I hate to challenge one of the greats, but I think even if there's no one sitting there, the house is still a home. I just need the love. That's all the love I need if I have a fantastic house. And so I'm literally challenging these lyrics as I write about it. So I'm having a good time.
Sounds like there's still a little bit of theory in there after
just
all.
a little bit. Just a little bit.
Oh, well, we love it. And we are just so thankful to know you and to be in your presence and follow your journey. And we can't wait to introduce you to our community even more and do some really fun and exciting projects.
I'm looking forward to it. I promise it won't be this serious. Y'all did this. Y'all made me this way.
We love it!
You made me this way.
I feel like we were totally different people last night, okay?
Bucking.
In my cowboy hat, and my aviators, hiding how
I moved, but you committed. He committed though, because I was hot. I had to come out of stuff. Like
No,
I was hot.
I had
but
a
you
great
committed.
time. I had a great time.
If there's one thing we know, two things can be true.
Two
Duality.
things can be true.
See? Well, y'all, thank you so much for being here again with us on another episode of the Elevate Collection podcast. As you know, all of the details are going to be in the show notes, and we'll make sure that you're connected. You'll see them all over our socials, and we just can't wait for you to stick with him too. Thanks for being here.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.